Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got gas, a morning edition on this beautiful Thursday, Veterans Day. Thank you, veterans, for all you've done, for all your service, whether you're whatever part you played. As many of us were not gun-carrying veterans, we did other things, support work. So thank you very much. It's Veterans Day. Thank you. All right, gas, special edition. We're going to talk about El Mirage to start with, and some more stuff going on with Bob Alderman. Bob, you've been up to El Mirage.
I have.
And you've run there. You started your licensing process there.
I did, and I've been going to El Mirage since I was a kid.
Okay.
Motorcycles. We used to ride
motorcycles
up there. When I was running a TQ, a three-quarter midget, we didn't have any place to test, so we would go up to El Mirage and just
play around,
make a circle track.
Okay, and it's a dirt type silt.
It's silt. It's desert, but where they run the cars,
right?
It's completely different than like Bonneville.
Okay.
Bonneville, you're running on salt.
Right.
And you know, you've got that big, wide, long, expansive platform.
Right.
El Mirage, you're running I believe it's a mile.
Yeah, 1.6.
1.6 miles, and it's a completely different deal. At Bonneville, you're, my humble opinion, I'm not an expert at that because I just started doing this stuff, but I found that once I learned how to find the traction on top of the salt, it was a little bit different.
Okay.
El Mirage is soft, silty, a lot shorter. It seems to be more closed in. Actually, I think to go 200 miles an hour at El Mirage is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, and I was reading the SCTA site about things. First off, it's not like Bonneville in that in Bonneville, you make two passes, both directions. One's a qualifying pass, one is your backup pass. And you have to back up the time that you've done on your initial qualifying pass. At El Mirage, you only make one pass. Now, they've only had 5 or 6 people go over 300 miles an hour at El Mirage, which is considerably less than what they have at Bonneville. The reason being, like you said, silt, lack of traction, and it's a short run. They don't have the 7-mile course at El Mirage they do at Bonneville, so you're real limited. It's a 2-day event this year. This is the finals.
Yes.
This weekend. They run 6 events per year. This is the finals. It'll be a 2-day event. Spectators are free. You do pay a BLM fee to be there, but $15 per person. Okay, big deal. You're there. There's no spectator fee. It is the grassroots of racing. Now, a lot of people think Bonneville was the land of hot rodding and speed. And it kind of was, but it really didn't take off until the 40s. In 1948, 49, when they did their first big event there, that's when it started attracting more and more people. But for Southern California, El Mirage was the hot rodding mecca. And that was before drag racing. You got to remember, El Mirage goes back, the first event that was held there was 1938. It was part of Muroc, but then they moved it to El Mirage, which is a little bit further south. And that land is all basically part of Edwards Air Force Base.
Yep.
So you're out there, but LA hot rodders would drive up to El Mirage, 2.5 hour drive out of LA, pull the fenders, pull the windshield, and you went racing. Today, it's just as sophisticated as Bonneville as far as safety requirements, but it's still the mecca for hot rodding. They've been holding events there every year for over 50 years, with the exception of during World War II. And it was hot rodders, LA area, Southern California, and Northern California guys that were coming down to El Mirage to set records and run land speed racing. Now, land speed racing, for those of you not familiar with it, is considerably different from anything else you watch on TV. You can't televise Bonneville or El Mirage racing because there is so much time between runs. It's only one car at a time. There's no grandstands. There's no spectator area. There's pit area. You watch the cars go by, and that's it. And it's one car at a time, usually 20 or 30 minutes minimum between runs because you've got to clear the car off the track. They don't return back. There's no return road they drive back on. And frankly, they haven't got enough engine left to drive back on a return run. You run fuel that you need just for that run. You don't have a cooling system necessarily, so you're running that 1 mile or 2 miles in what, a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes? Track time?
Track time?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're about there 2-3 minutes at most. At most.
If.
So cooling systems are not an issue. You don't look at that. El Mirage, though, is the birthplace, and it is the mecca for hot rodding. Bonneville, that's land speed record territory, where they actually have the higher speeds, but it is not the mecca that El Mirage is, was, and continues to be. Southern California Timing Association started out at Muroc, moved to El Mirage. They've been there consistently. They're still going strong. 6 events a year. Now, that's more than Bonneville has. Bonneville's only got 2 or 3 events a year.
It has 2, I believe. I
Well,
think it's well, it doesn't matter. Speed Week, the World
Speed
Finals.
Week and the World Finals, and they've got one other in between that. But it's still a situation where it's a whole different atmosphere. And because it is a long course, they've got multiple courses at Bonneville. But because it's such a longer course, you do backup runs. You have to qualify, and that qualifying run gets you into the next run, and you have to back up that run for a record. At El Mirage, it's 1 run.
Yeah, and at Bonneville, if you get a record, and like you said, you have to back that record up, that car goes straight to impound.
Yeah.
And you get, I believe, an hour to work on it. And
turn it around,
and it stays there. It stays there all night. And then the next morning, it goes through inspection like it did the first time, and then you go make your backup run.
All right, now you started your license process at El Mirage.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I went out to El Mirage. It's a really long story. I don't think we need to get into that. But coincidentally, I ended up out there, and I was watching, and this very, very good friend of mine from sprint car racing that I hadn't seen for a very long time, Mike Cook. Rest in peace, Mike. We love you. He just passed about a month ago. Came walking up to me at El Mirage and just started talking to me. And he's got a red hat. He's a 200-mile-an-hour guy. Amazing motor builder. His knowledge of motors and how they work was amazing. But he was on the team at Bonneville with Danny Thompson.
Oh, okay.
And Ferguson. And they got a record this year.
Yeah, they did.
And, you know, I was very fortunate to spend time with Mike at Bonneville, and I that was the last time I saw him. But anyway, getting back to El Mirage, he came walking up to me, and we were talking, and he said, you know, you need to do this. And I said, well, you know, Mike, I think my racing days are over. You know, I've been a little sick, and you know, I have bone density problems, and I can't get hurt, and on and on and on. And he said, yeah, anyway, you need to do this. So I hung out with him, and I hung out with the Rod Riders that day. Okay. I started talking to Biggie, my friend Biggie, about Bonneville. He built the Speed Demon, and it just kind of progressed from there. And we put a deal together with Chuck and Tony Huntmer. I can't pronounce his last name to save my life. But anyway, they were awesome. They have not been able to go racing. His mother had dementia, full-time care, so they had to stay home. And then this thing came up with Bonneville, and I was going to license at El Mirage. We put this together really quickly. So we went out to El Mirage, and there was 2 officials out there that met us out there, and I got through my bailout, and I got through that kind of stuff. Okay. And there was a meet, and I made a pass in the car, and there was a meet the following weekend, and I think it might have been a couple weeks or however long before Bonneville, and it was so hot they canceled it.
Oh yeah.
So I had to finish my licensing at Bonneville, which, to be really honest with you, was really kind of cool because it's part of the whole experience, you know. And we did well. We had a great run, and we got our rookie license. We did that, and then.
Oh, you're saying we, but it was you.
Well,
The
listen,
team,
it's
the
a
teamwork.
team.
It's a teamwork with you, but you earned the license. They were there supporting you and getting things
Yeah,
going.
I wouldn't have been there without him.
That's true, but you got the license.
Okay.
You're the guy that's going from sprint cars or go-karts, dirt bikes, TQs, and now
Off-road cars.
off-road cars, and now land speed cars. You've achieved quite a bit in automotive. And for those of you who haven't watched Wrench Wars, you were one of the main people on that show for almost its entire run.
Well, 3 seasons from
Three
from day
seasons.
one. I was a resident judge.
Yeah.
and it was a anyway. But so anyway, El Mirage. So we go out there and do all that. The bailout really bothered me because you know I have chronic fatigue from my cancer treatments, and I can do things, but it's weird what I can do and what I can't do. It's a whole new normal. So when I have to exert myself physically a lot, I get really tired, and I was having a really hard time getting out of the car. And you know, I got out of the car. I'm not sure. I think they give you 30 seconds.
Okay.
You know, and I think got out in 18 seconds, something like that.
Oh, you're not too fast then, right?
But I was disappointed. I apologized to the car owner. I said, I'm really sorry, because in my mind, that was not good. I mean, if I had to get out of a sprint car, it wouldn't be 18 seconds. It'd be 0.18 seconds.
Yeah.
You know?
Jump out, yeah.
So we did that, and then I made a pass, and then it got canceled. So then our whole plans changed, and we went to Bonneville. And they last minute came to Bonneville and were able to get care for Mom. And we had an incredible week.
Good.
It was a blast. Chick drove the car, and I drove the car, and as I was going to license up, the car broke. At Bonneville, its rookie is 65 to 125 miles an hour.
Okay.
Next is 125 to 150.
Okay.
And then it's 150 to 175, and on up the license, and it goes from, I believe, E to AA.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure yet. But the car broke at 129 miles an hour or something. So we didn't get our next license. But we're gonna try and do that at El Mirage this year.
Okay.
Any way we can. I can't wait to go back to Bonneville. But El Mirage, getting back to our original conversation, heroes, icons of the sport at El Mirage. Unbelievable the names. If you go back and look through all that, the archives, who was there. My 87-year-old uncle used to run at El Mirage. They were buying 1934 Fords for $500.
Yeah.
And they would buy them and strip them down, and then they'd flat tow them to El Mirage with their other 34 Ford or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a hill they had trouble getting up. So what they would do is they would put someone in the race car, start it up, and then they would push-pull all the way up the hill. Which, you know,
ingenuity.
Those stories and what brought us to racing today, where we are, is just, that's the grassroots thing is amazing. And to be involved with the grassroots thing right now, after all, you know, my years, is just amazing to me. I'm just blown away by the atmosphere of it, and I went out to El Mirage that time for the first time, and man, it hadn't changed in 40 years.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. But it is traditional hot rodding at its best. Before NHRA, before legitimate drag racing, El Mirage was the place to go with a hot rod. It wasn't how quickly you could accelerate, it was how fast you accelerated, period. It wasn't an acceleration run as much as it was a top speed.
Yeah.
Whereas drag racing, it's not necessarily your top speed, it's how quickly you could accelerate.
It's an explosion.
It's an explosion, yeah. So you're looking at different ways. But El Mirage is the birthplace of hot rodding for Southern California, regardless of what anyone else says. That's where hot rodders went. It was El Mirage. All right, now, moving on. You are doing a series.
I'm going to say one more thing.
Yes, go ahead. Go right. We won't move on. Go ahead.
To go as fast as those guys are going at El Mirage,
Mm-hmm.
the 200 and above, and the
Right.
couple guys that went 300, that to me is an incredible accomplishment on that short of a track in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we ran 117 miles an hour or something at El Mirage, and it was, the 100-mile-an-hour thing is just a 100-mile-an-hour thing.
Yeah.
You can do that,
Well,
up your driveway. But
yeah, that's it.
But
people think they can do that on the street. They do it on the street with, you got a speedometer on your car, it goes to 150. Oh, I can run 120, 130, no problem. Put it out on the track with all the proper safety equipment under the conditions of the silt, and 100 miles an hour is a feat.
Yes.
That is something to do.
Yes.
It is not that easy. I've seen guys up at Bonneville take a motorcycle. You take a Ninja motorcycle, for example, 130, 140 miles an hour on the street. Yeah, it's not legal. They'll do it. You take them up to Bonneville, and all of a sudden, they're scraping to go 120.
I know.
And they don't realize the difference of doing that versus the street. And it's quite a bit different. The traction is an issue. The altitude is an issue. Going up to El Mirage, that's over half-mile high. So you're losing performance that you would have here in the LA area at sea level.
Right.
There's a lot of factors that go into that. Fuel-injected cars, obviously, and motorcycles have it a little bit easier because the oxygen sensor on the emission system will readjust the fuel injection to compensate for the air. But you're still going to lose power. It's just an amazing situation, and the difference between reality and that butt dyno you use to tell how fast your car is.
I hate the street stuff. I have a big problem with that. I live in Mulholland, and we get all the supercars, and we get all the all the wannabes running through there all the time. And Bob, there's 100-mile-an-hour people, there's 120-mile-an-hour people, there's 140-mile-an-hour people, there's 150-mile-an-hour people. You put a 100-mile-an-hour person in a Ferrari, and you put a 120-mile-an-hour person in a Toyota Camry, the Camry's going to beat the Ferrari every time. So the test of accomplishing speed in a controlled environment is, believe it or not, much harder because you have parameters you have to adhere to. Where the street, they're just out there running wild like the Old West.
Yeah, and they don't know how long it's taken them to get up to that speed, whereas you've got a prescribed course and a prescribed distance that you have to travel on. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out. El Mirage this weekend. I'm going to be there. Bob's going to be there. I'll be with the Lucas team, and I'm hanging around you when I can.
I'll be with the Rod Riders.
And you'll be the Rod Riders.
And I'm going to be with the Lucas team.
And we'll be hanging. And Jeff Stillwell has finally come in from Great Britain to run his car. We had it at Bonneville. I was there with him in 2019 and wouldn't come out of neutral. Now, he holds the record at 258 right now at Bonneville. We don't know what he's going to do at El Mirage. The car's never driven.
So he ran 250 at Bonneville.
And he's got the record. Now he's...
And it wouldn't come out of neutral.
It wouldn't come out of neutral. Now,
is that one of those air deals?
I think so. He's got... When he set the record, it was 1,500 horsepower Hemi. It is now a 5,000 horsepower Hemi. The car has been stretched. There's more safety devices in it. It has a wing to keep it planted. They didn't want to add weight. And I talked to Danny Thompson about that. And he's a proponent of aerodynamics over weight. Now, a lot of people add the weight to keep the car on the ground during the high speeds. But he says, you add the weight, you've got to stop that weight.
Absolutely.
So adding the wing gives you the same downforce without the added weight. The car weighs in now, and I believe it's 6,200 pounds. Now, traditional drag racers, you're going to say, wait a minute, that's heavy. That car's going to go slow. It's a different situation than drag racing. We're not talking about acceleration. We're talking about top speed, getting the vehicle up to that speed and keeping it on the ground at that speed. Drag racing, you're only going for a short distance. Arundel, eighth mile. Pomona, quarter mile. Bakersfield, quarter mile. Verona, eighth mile. You're not running over a mile at those speeds. And the other thing, too, is we see a lot of guys going from Irwindale to Fontana or Bakersfield and the engines blow up. Why? They're not used to that extra eighth of a mile. Now you're running eighth of a mile wide open, and your car can come apart. The engine can come apart. These guys are running 1.6 miles, full throttle, and the engine has to stay together. You don't go back to the pits and have time to rebuild the motor or change motors. You only have an hour between runs. So it's a different situation. Build a motor to stay together at full throttle for over a mile. Drag racers, you can have a hard time doing it. All right, now, moving on. You are part of a program, and you are pushing Faster Than Cancer.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about that, because you got a video out on YouTube that people can get to.
I do. It's on Prostate Cancer Research Institute website. You can get to it by punching in pcri.youtube Bob Alderman, and it'll come up. I'm talking about it a lot right now because I'm very, very blessed, lucky, whatever I am, to be sitting here and having this conversation. The Faster Than Cancer is a lifestyle wellness situation on how to get through the treatments and how to get ready for the treatment and what you have to do to fight the side effects. I'm on hormone therapy the rest of my life, and the side effects are rough. And I get a shot once a month, and you guys out there that are on Lupron, you know what I'm talking about. But all that to say, there's ways to combat anything, and it doesn't have to be with drugs or anything like that. It can be done naturally with diet, exercise. The biggest thing in this whole deal is attitude. I'm a racer. It's kind of born in me. But when I was down, and I didn't think I was ever going to race again. I didn't drive a car for over a year. So when I started feeling better and started working through all of this, I noticed that anytime I did something that had to do with my passion, I felt better. So a couple track days, wow, that was fun. Something else came up, and then the Bonneville thing came up, and all of a sudden I'm racing, and Irwindale came up, and I'm out on Thursday nights just working on my Christmas tree, on my light. That's all I care about. I don't care how fast it is. I know that that's one of the most important things of that racing, so that's what I'm working on just because I want to. But to get to a place where I'm at right now, and I didn't ever want to be defined by cancer. I still don't. I kept it under the radar for as long as I could with this last bout. But when you disappear off the face of the earth, people start calling. So when I came through it, I thought, I'm pretty lucky. I'm sure there's millions of guys out there just like me doing the same thing. They just aren't telling their story, and they're, I've heard of those guys. One guy's building airplanes, stunt planes. He's almost 80 years old, and he's still out there doing that. And I used the cancer card to open a few doors, but the doors I opened, it's not a charity deal. You got to kind of be able to walk the walk. You're not going to knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I've got cancer, but by the way, I'd like to go 250 miles an hour at Bonneville next year. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to do that, to prove that you can walk the walk. And that's all part of the wellness part of the cancer journey. I have so much passion for this that I didn't realize I was going to have when I kind of started this project. I found that after what I've gone through, I can have empathy for just about anybody's problems. Because, when you have a terminal disease, a broken wrist isn't terminal. Other things aren't terminal, but you still have empathy for the person that's going through that because you know they're in pain or whatever. The empathy grows as my battle keeps going, and as the empathy grows, the passion grows, and the more I want to advocate wellness and a healthy lifestyle for cancer patients, and not just prostate cancer patients, all of them, and every cancer is different, every person's different. Prostate cancer is men, and you know, face it, guys, we're stubborn, we're stupid, we'll go fight a war, we'll go jump off a building, we'll jump off an airplane, out of an airplane, we'll go race cars, we'll go do all this stuff, but we're afraid to get our prostate checked. And you know, I was exactly the same way, but it turns out that that's the least of it. When you come out and you're able to follow your passion and be able to kind of do what you didn't think you'd ever be able to do again, it just breathes a whole new life into it. And you're able to move the passion around. And that's something that I never realized you could do. I thought you had to focus on one thing. And I said that before. But I have met people in my racing career, I've met people in my life that, you know, they don't like me, I don't like them, whatever. There's always been problems with something, with somebody. It's life. We all go through it. It's a business deal. It's a this deal. It's a that deal. But after going through this and doing what I'm doing right now, if my worst enemy called me tomorrow and said, you know, I hate your guts, I still think you're an asshole, but I have stage 4 terminal bone cancer, I would be all over that, because nobody deserves to go through that. And that's my faster than cancer spiel, and I've got a lot to say about it. But you know, I met you. I mean, I used the cancer card to meet him, and it's grown into this friendship that we have, and this race relationship, and all of that, and those are the things that are important.
Yeah.
The other stuff, it's really not important. I mean, you get to a point where nothing's more important than anything else. Your patience level, your lifestyle, your understanding, everything that comes with this battle, I wouldn't trade for anything. I'm a much different person. I'm the same guy. I mean, I'll go out in the pits and hang out, and we'll laugh and have fun and do all that other stuff. I'm still that guy, but deep inside, I am I'm completely different, and I like it. I get a lot of satisfaction out of inspiring and being motivational. I think I would be selfish if I didn't do that, knowing what I know, and I don't know much. I'm just an old carpenter. I used a tiny little platform of racing to get my word out there, and now all of a sudden, you know, I've got PCRI, I've got Bear Pharmaceutical involved. I'm getting other people involved, and you know, we're gonna get the word out there, and we're gonna get early detection out there, which is key. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't have early detection. So early detection, you know, diagnosis, early detection, care team, medical team, all of that. That's what it's all about. But unfortunately for me, I have to keep this thing going, and you know, I can't. We're working on a documentary, but you know, they take a while to get out, and my partner Ted, who's been amazing through this whole journey, he was my rock when I was sick, said, you know, Bob, Bonneville's great and everything, but by the time the documentary gets out, you know, what if it's a year or 2 years? And it's like, well, what have you done lately? He was absolutely right. So now this is what we're doing lately, and we're in the process of building Optima Streetcar Challenge truck. There's a new class in 2021. Trucks, vans, SUVs, and we're going to enter that class in 2022. We'll be in Vegas in March.
All right. Bob Alderman talking about Faster Than Cancer. Each week we're going to go over a different segment of this, and we'll talk about what you can do, what you need to do, and what Bob is doing to address this situation.
I'd rather talk about cars.
We'll talk about cars too.
So
but we'll bring
when we
that in
talk
as
about
well.
cars, we'll just...
We'll allude to something else.
Yeah.
And how your focus to combat your disease and keep your mental state going where it needs to, you're using cars.
I'm using cars.
We're using cars. We're using all forms of racing, all forms of car modifications and hot rodding. We'll cover the build that Bob's doing on his vehicle to enter. We're not going to tell you what it is just yet, but we'll show you photographs of it. We'll show you videos of it in coming episodes of GAAS.
And it's a great story, too, by the way.
It is.
The story of the car itself. And Irwindale opens in January.
It's going to open back up in January. The first event at Irwindale Drag Strip is going to be Moon Eyes, the New Year's party, January 22nd. Put it on your calendar. That's when Irwindale Drag Strip opens up again, and we'll be racing again at Irwindale every Thursday night under the lights, and then special events like Moon Eyes on January 22nd. I'm Hot Rod Bob, along with Bob Alderman. You've got GAAS, the morning edition, brought to you by Service Tech Equipment and Valley Head Service. Take care, folks. We'll see you next week
Thank
on
you.
GAAS. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.